Good morning. Sorry. I should really start talking before I turn on the camera, just to clear my voice. I'm gonna shower after this video, so don't think I won't be showering today. It's just happening next. But I have things that I feel like I'm on the verge of learning about, but I don't know them yet. So I just want to mention them quickly because I feel like I want to have that tract of like the beginning stages where you're not understanding till later on when maybe I will understand. So a couple of things on my mind, and sometimes again talking about this stuff every day like makes me think of other things. So these are the things that I'm thinking about. We'll start with yesterday's stuff because that's different. But I remember I said, as I read that devotional, I said, God is 100% talking to me. And I've been thinking about that afterwards because it's like I kind of regret saying it in a way. But I'm like, should I regret saying that? Should I not? The reason is because like there are times when I am 100% sure that God is talking to me, and those are the times that I want to save that statement for. There are other times like yesterday where it was definitely something I needed to hear and was helpful. I'm not sure I would consider it a time that God was speaking to me though. And so I'm kind of like, I wish I didn't say that there. Usually my moments with God are much more impactful. And so then I was like, well, but is it God? Is every little thing like that God? Every little thing? I don't know, and I think people will say, yeah, all your steps have been predetermined or whatever the phrase is. But so now I'm just like wondering like how much of all of it is and isn't God. So that's on my mind. And then another thing is because I was talking about where people don't see you correctly sort of thing. A lot of that happened after my becoming Christian. And so I want to address that. It's not like, and again, I think the way I spoke that, it was as if this has been a struggle my whole life. It has not been. Most of my life, people see me, interact with me, and know who I am, and it's been easy. Not that stuff gets worse after you're a Christian, but the things I was specifically talking about in yesterday's video, where it's like there's gossip and people are seeing you one way and really it's so untrue, and that kind of level of drama really has only started to happen to me after becoming a Christian. And so it's like clearly there's something going on there. And the way I can think about it and understand it is about, again, the polarity between light and dark and spiritual warfare and stuff like that. Because these things only happen, like it may sound like I have a billion examples. Really, it's like I have examples from one church scenario and a relationship that I was in with that church scenario. And I have examples from another church scenario. And that may have taken 6 months to play out, but it's still examples from that one church scenario. So the bulk of that kind of trauma is related to churches, not my big church, but small churches, and churches or pastors or church people and I haven't even shared it all. It's like. And yet it happens in that world. And that's where I think about the division in the body and the intense warfare around not having people be united. And how often it feels like the devil wins. Kind of. It's just, and there must be purpose in that. There must be purpose in God allowing that. And people must be growing or changing, or things might be moving, or, but that's something. to clarify. And then I felt like there was a third one I wanted to say, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. Because I'm thinking about my daughter now. It also happened with my children. We went from being and again, they were much younger then. They were 4 years younger. But we went from being a happy, I don't know how happy I actually should. It felt like we were happy and bonded and united and interacting in a way. And then it was like, after becoming a Christian, especially in the beginning, my kids would look at me with evil eyes, almost. And it's like, what has happened to our family? Right? I'm going through this and I am becoming a Christian. And granted, I was going through a tremendous amount of, I don't know if it's warfare, but hard stuff. And that was intense. And it probably affected my parenting. But I was also becoming more discerning, and I was seeing things and being aware of things. And so maybe it's like I could see more clearly things, that then I had to attend to. And the worst, though, was when it was like through my children's eyes. And it was almost like especially with my daughter, I was like, it got so hard with her. And it felt like she was almost cringing away from me. And I'm like, that's hard when we, it's a big change. And I worked with her and worked with her and worked with her. And it's like she kind of worked through her own spiritual stuff at such a young age, like alongside me. And some of it you could see in her drawings, which I won't elaborate on, but she's an artist. And so then she would draw out what she was processing. And for a while, then she started to not touch. She wouldn't hug, she wouldn't touch. And that was very difficult. And I would, because there's times as a parent, you want to just yell at your kids, right? And I would consciously remember, especially with her, I'm not trying to have another video where I cry all the time. But I will screw up constantly, and God doesn't yell at me. God doesn't harshly discipline me or yell at me or get frustrated with me ever. Even though I'm like a mess of a person spiritually. God loves me, always loves me through whatever it is. I was so patient, like the most patient God ever. And so I was able to start using that approach with her, and we would have I would hug her every night before bed and hold her and hug her, even if she wouldn't hug me back. We had to, and we worked on that. And then I would say, I love you. And then even if she wouldn't say, I love you back. And I have to change the subject now because she's coming down. I don't want to talk in front of her. But anyway, over time, that really, really, really changed the dynamic and was extremely healing. We'll elaborate more later. Let's change the subject. The other thing that I feel like I'm learning right now is about, hey, sweetie, is about what we bind on earth is what we bind in heaven, or what we loose on earth is what we loose in heaven. I don't understand that. I feel like I've heard that somewhere. I have to probably Google it, see if it's in the Bible somewhere, and research it and learn about it. I don't understand that or even know anything about it, what it means, or if it's a Christian thing or not, or if it's, I don't know. But I feel like it's on my mind all the time, which is odd because I know nothing about it. So we have to learn about that. And so that's one of the things I made a note. And then about Jesus being fully God and fully human. And then I was wondering, well, then what are we? We're not fully God. We're fully human. Are we partially God? Like, are we supposed to be increasingly like God? Like, I don't understand the difference then. Jesus was fully human. We are fully human. Jesus was also fully God. We are not fully God. At least I am not fully God. But are we supposed to be? I think we're supposed to be like, and yet it's not something we can do to ourselves. So again, it's up to God to change us and to make us more holy. But that's just again been on my mind as well. And then the piece about the topic we were just talking about a minute ago, with like, the third thing I couldn't remember was with my family, with my sister. A lot of the drama that's going on with the family turmoil, with the dynamics that I've spoken about before surrounding like my dad. It's happening with my sister who was starting to take steps in her faith. And so what I was going to say about that is, it's one thing for someone to be a Christian when they're, again, a lifetime Christian, where their parents are Christian. Maybe their parents are even, dad is even a pastor, or mom is a pastor. It's always the dad though. Their siblings are Christian. They probably went to a Christian school. They have friend groups from growing up, from 20 years of just even turning into an adult, of Christians. Everywhere they turn, they dated a Christian, they married a Christian. They have been going to Christian churches and small groups, and they have Christian fellowship, and their literal whole world is Christians and other Christians. I don't see a lot of those people going outside of that bubble a lot, though, which is interesting. I see a lot of them protecting themselves and isolating themselves from the rest of the world. And I have very little exposure. But, and of course it's not all of them, but that's one way of being. You're going to encounter different kinds of struggles when that's your life. God gave you that life. And then that's your life, and you maybe will or won't encounter certain things, versus someone like me, where you've spent 45 years not being a Christian, living very fully in the world with everybody else you know who is also not a Christian. Nobody you know. Your immediate family isn't. Your friends are. You might know people who are, and you kind of honestly don't think too highly of them because for whatever reason, they're usually, maybe you're liberal and they're conservative, or maybe they eat at Chick-fil-A and you don't, or whatever, maybe you think that they're homophobic and you're not, or that kind of stuff keeps you apart from each other. And you go to public school, and you date people and are in relationships with other people who aren't Christian. If you ask them to go to church with you, they'll say, hell no. It's like, that's normal. That's normal life. So then after 45 years of that, if you all of a sudden one day are like becoming Christian, like there's a polarity that happens where now you're the only one who is going through this. You have nobody to talk to about it. You're alone in it. You only have God. You have God, you have Jesus, you have the Spirit, and that's luckily enough. you might go to church, but you don't necessarily, it's not like they're deeply embedded into your life. The church might work hard to get you into a small group, and you might see that, you might go to church for an hour or two on the weekend, right? You might serve for an hour or two. You might see a small group for an hour or two. That's nothing. That's nothing. So you are generally walking the Christian walk alone. You're not dating Christians. People who have been a Christian for 45 years aren't going to date somebody who's been a Christian for 2 months. You know, you are alone in your walk. And so everybody around you at work, everywhere you are is not a Christian, or not like a born again kind of Christian. You know, they might be like, not to judge the Lutherans or whatever, they might be like Lutheran or Methodist or something, and they might go to church, but they're different than the people who are like born again. There is a difference. Like you might encounter Catholics and stuff, but the people who are born again are a whole different type of Christian. They truly are, in my mind. And so in my experience doing this for 4 years, plus we're working on the 5th year, and doing it alone in that way, then to see my sister start to take steps in her faith, she would send me she sent me once a Christian coloring book. She would always ask me for advice about, like, what does the church say? What does God say? Or actually, she would ask me for advice about life, work, or relationship, or friends. And I would respond with, well, this is what the church would say. This is what, the Bible would say. Because I couldn't help myself but respond spiritually. Like, I couldn't, like, that's the answer. That's the answer. Like, you can't ask me at this stage in my life and have me not give you advice that's spiritual. Like, I don't know how else to answer. And she would hear it, and she would listen. And I prayed for her once, like, together on the phone, like, out loud. She just wanted me to pray for her, but I was like, I'm not gonna just pray for you like you're in a different state and I'm just gonna pray. Like, let's pray right now on the phone together out loud. I don't think I'd ever even prayed out loud before, but she asked me to buy her a Bible, because she was like overwhelmed with the decisions and she couldn't pick out her own, which to me was odd because I feel like it's easy to buy a Bible, but I went all out. I bought her the little highlighters. I think I bought her maybe I think I bought her the same devotional calendar we read on these videos now and then. I think I bought her the Jesus Calling book. I bought her the Bible. I've just spent a ton of money getting her, but like, I set her up. This is what you're gonna need. And she was like so close, and then she switched and got really almost, I don't want to say hateful, but she definitely switched and things got super hard. Hard directed at who? Anybody else in the family who's not a Christian? No, hard directed at me. So that was a huge change. But again, I fully believe it's like her own spiritual journey and her own, because there's some hard stuff you have to work through. But it almost feels like she's losing the battle. So that's hard to see this play out with her. And when I'll talk to like other family members about it, like, because the problem is her, and I'm like, I really think this is spiritual. This is how it used to be with her, and this is how it is now. They just like ignore me. They like don't know what to say to that. They just move on with something else. It's almost like they can't hear it correctly. And if I were to say that same thing to a Christian, they would hear it differently and understand it differently, and it would be a different conversation. Anyway, so what I realized about that was, I'm like, I don't really do a good job praying for her. I might talk to God all day, every day. I feel like I talk to God constantly. Like I'm interacting with God constantly. But that's still different than taking the time to pause and like specifically pray for other people. Like, I realized I don't pray for my son in the way that I could. I had this pastor once who had said, that his dad would like cut his dad. I think his dad was a pastor. All these pastors have pastor dads. It's ridiculous, but not like it's a family business. But he had his dad would like come into his room and pray over him at night. Isn't that awesome? And he's like, Dad, what are you doing? Like, this is crazy. But his dad would do that. His dad would go into his room at night and pray over him. Like, I don't do that well. Of like praying over my children, speaking life into my children, blessing them, speaking life over them. Praying for them. I'm not, probably because I've never been a prayer. Like, I wasn't really like, we weren't raised that way. Like, it's not like I'm like, oh, you pray for whatever and that thing will happen. Like, I don't use God as a vending machine. Like, I interact with God. I talk to God, commune with God, abide with God. But I don't generally pray for other people. So that's another thing I'm trying to work on, is like getting better at doing that. So that's what we're talking about, this stuff out loud to myself on these videos every day helps me, because I can see my own weaknesses, right? It might not be helping anybody else, but I can see more clearly my own like areas where I need improvement from doing it this way, which is, I'm so appreciative of that. Anyway, I don't know why all of this is making me cry. That was not hormonal. But I have asked if I could see my dad tonight. I don't want to disturb them if they have plans or something, but I wanted to have some time with my dad this evening, and so hopefully that will happen. My daughter has her, it's a club activity for school that I'm really proud of her for joining this club, that she's looking forward to. So hopefully that will be good. And then I'm gonna try to go to church this evening. We'll see how it works out with my dad. If he can come with me, or if like how that timing wise works out. But anyway, this is getting too long now, so I have to stop. Apologize for all the crying. I really wasn't hormonal. Pretty much all I've done today is sleep, and then I did make some coffee and a cinnamon sugar toast. And then I had to wait to shower because my daughter had showered first, so I was kind of like waiting for the hot water to build back up. My son should be getting home from work soon. Anyway, so that is today, but I hope that I get further, like, to ask for wisdom about these things and get some further understanding about these various topics. And then also then, like, about my daughter, she has come around. It feels like she has come full circle. Like, she is so loving and so calm and so warm, and she will hug and she will say I love you, and she is open to hearing about God, and she doesn't look at me with those eyes anymore, and it feels like I got her back. And it also feels like that she was protected from something, or something bad was maybe cast out, or or she herself, she did open her heart and stuff. So that's just so wonderful to see that with her. And now I'm like, oh my goodness, am I going to be raising a lifetime Christian? So that's something I honestly kind of struggle with, because it's like, as much as I don't want to say speak poorly about the lifetime Christians, but I have issue with them, with some of them. Like, I'm curious if I'm going to be raising one, which of course would be a good thing. But it does a number on my mind. Anyway, I clearly need to go and take a shower. Have a good day.